Welcome back to the My Latin Life podcast. Since 2014, My Latin Life has been your trusted guide to traveling, living in Latin America. Our guest today is Douglas Haslam from the Dying to Retire podcast. I love the name Dying to Retire. I thought it was hilarious, so I had to have you on the My Latin Life podcast. How's it going, Douglas?
Pretty good. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Can I call you Doug?
Yes. Yeah, everyone does.
Dougie.
Yes, sir.
Cool, man. So I love what you're doing. I love the name. I love the kind of regular guy angle you're bringing to the retire abroad sort of genre, I guess you could say. But I guess tell us a little bit about Guatemala and retirement and kind of where you're at and, the message you're trying to share with people.
Okay. Yeah. Like I said, I'm a recent retiree. I worked for a long time in the federal government. I've had a pretty eclectic life. I'm last of the baby boomers, a little bit older than a lot of folks on there. And I'm one of the folks looking to retire. I'm not planning to be like a digital nomad or anything like that. My wife is Guatemalan. We've been together for now coming up to 30 plus years. So retiring to Guatemala, because like I said, I've been in the Guatemalan culture for almost 30 years. So it's second nature to me. And my wife's family has that home still in Guatemala. We do go back and forth and stuff on there. So looking in there. So what I like to focus on, one, like I said, being a recent retiree from the federal government, going through that process, what is all us old people, what we all have to go through. But I also had to go through all the process because I do like doing it all correctly. So I had to do everything about getting my Guatemalan residency, which I finally got completed recently, going through all of that because there's multiple steps on it. There's a lot of stuff you have to do on the U.S. side, the paperwork that you have to all get done. And then there's a lot of stuff that you have to do on the Guatemalan side. The biggest thing I'm always going to recommend, get a person, Guatemalan lawyer that works on it really well, or get a referent that handles a lot of the stuff on that side. But you need to go in there knowing what you're going to be doing because there's a lot of steps. And if you're not very versed in Spanish, and my wife is not the best person to be teaching me Spanish because she doesn't have a lot of paciencia. She doesn't have patience for that. And my Spanish sucks. I'm going to be the first person to say that. But yeah, it's like you were saying, the regular person's going through the process because, again, like I said, I'm not looking to be a digital nomad. I'm looking to be a retiree. And the other part, like what's really great was looking at the property, what I'm looking to do. I didn't want to live in the Guatemalan city, and my wife isn't here, so I can say this. I knew my wife didn't want to live in the home that she grew up part of her life in Guatemala. It's down there in the city. The U.S. has kind of spoiled her a little bit. I knew she'd want to live better in the gated community outside of like the Antigua area. So that helped me focus on looking at the different communities in and around the Antigua area that I wanted to look at. I know I probably blew my budget a little bit when I was looking at it, but that will be our retirement home when she finally retires.
Okay, definitely makes sense.
Yeah.
So a couple interesting things you mentioned. One I want to pick up on is, so you're married 30 years. The entire time you've essentially lived in the U.S., right? You never lived for like 2-3 years in Guatemala or something, just the whole time in the U.S.
Yeah, correct. I've lived the whole time in the U.S. other than, like I said, I had an eclectic career. After 9/11, I did go back to the U.S. government, working on there. Prior to me going back to the U.S. government, I was in the military in the 1980s. So I have spent time overseas in Japan, I've been time in Korea before, been time in the Philippines before. So I have traveled before in my life. I was stationed in Japan for a year plus in Iwakuni, Japan. So I've have experience there, traveled around in South Korea, not North Korea, but South Korea, been in the Philippines before.
Cool.
And
no, the reason I mentioned it though is because I see this a lot with the clients that we get and people that book in calls with us, is that they'll be like a husband and wife that maybe the wife is Mexican or just from any foreign country really, and it's like, okay, well, why don't we retire to Mexico? Why don't we retire to Guatemala? Why don't we retire to Argentina? Or and so it's I think it's something that every couple probably thinks about, like, oh, why don't we go
Yeah.
retire to tropical paradise type of thing and escape the rat race in the US.
Oh yeah, it is a discussion because you have to look at what you're going to be able to live to. Now, during my work with the government, I have been away for a year plus at a time, several times. We call it singleton tours. So, not with my wife. I have been away in more austere locations for at a time. And like I said, I'm retired now. The wife is behind me, so I'm building the home in Guatemala that should be done in the next month or so, and I'll be there getting it ready before she retires and comes down. But we've done trips down there in 2019, actually 2018. We were down there before together for several weeks. We were with her parents. So we were down there for a while. So we've done trips back and forth, but we haven't done a long, long time down there, like you were saying. And yet that is different. And I'm more open to it than her originally for that, like you were saying in there, which is kind of weird. I'm not sure how your clients have been. I'm more open to traveling abroad than she was initially to that concept. And I'm not sure how your clients are. Where is the one that's from the host country or home country hesitant to be going back or not? I have a lot of friends of mine that I work with up here who are originally from other countries, and they're more than happy going back. It was just different. Because she came here when she was like 6 years old, 7 years old, which was different.
Yeah, usually there is one spouse that's kind of leading the charge a little bit more. Sometimes it's the one that's from the country. Sometimes it's the one that's not
Yeah.
from the country.
Yeah.
Because it's an interesting topic. So you mentioned renovating. So you bought a place, or tell me about that.
Correct. Well, our original plan was her parents have a house in the Guatemala City, and it's the typical. Have you been to Guatemala City before?
I have, yeah.
Okay, and it's in Zone Dos, right next to Zona Uno. If you've been to the center of the city, and it's the typical old city style 2-floor house in there that goes way back. And the way it's set up is he actually owns the whole house, but the first floor his older brother lives in, and it's got like the 5 bedrooms, 3 bath, and the second floor is like another apartment. But the whole house is her dad's house and goes to the family. And I was originally going to take over the upper house, top floor, and fix it up. I had money saved to fix it all up. It's in a decent location, though it looks antiquated. That part of the city hasn't got a lot of love recently, right? It's not like Miraflores or down by Oakland Mall and stuff like that, like, by Cayala area and stuff. So we're originally going to do that, but things weren't working out. The family dynamics that will always get in there. So we decided, hey, let's start looking about buying something. However, I did not want to look at Cayala. I did not want all of that stuff. So I started looking at down by the Antigua area because I do like being out by the country area, a little bit away from the city, but close enough where you can get to things. What was actually good for me, because I was recently down there when I started looking at the property, and this is when I know what you're looking for. That's one of my biggest things, letting people know when you're looking at housing, know what you're looking for, do a lot of research ahead of time before you even get boots on the ground. Make sure you do tons of research. And apology if I drop an S-bomb or something like that. I am a jarhead, so it will slip out. Apologies there. So do your research. The reason why, because the old house in Guatemala City, and this is what I'm about to say, plumbing in the city is not the world's greatest. Everything like that. Water pressure in the city is not the world's greatest. So in the middle of the week, you may not have hot water, cold water, whatever. They don't even have hot water in the old house. That's what I'm talking about when I wanted to refurbish it, rebuild it. So it didn't have any of that. Doesn't have great ventilation, the whole 9 yards. So when I said, hey, I'm going to look for a house to buy or have it built, I had this, hey, I want to have these minimum things to be done. Now, I'm not trying to build a house like here in the United States, like I have here in Maryland, but it gave me these minimum things that I must have if I'm going to have a nice house built wherever, like in a gated community and stuff that I knew my wife would be more than happy to move into. So when I started looking at the different gated communities, these were the minimum required requirements that I had to have. I had to have, made sure I had a water pump, made sure I had a cistern, made sure that at least in the master bedroom, I at least throw a split pack in where she could have her air conditioning and things that I knew would make sure they were comfortable. But these are the things I wanted to make sure the gated community was nice. The things to look at. One of the things I hated at when I was looking at the different houses and stuff, real estate agents and everyone, when they're showing you houses, pretty much every house they show you from the pictures on the internet will look all nice and pretty from no matter what angle. Now, I've been in some gnarly different countries around the world, and you can be on the second floor and you've seen how they run the power into the different houses and stuff. And you hang over the balcony, you can reach out and grab the electrical line. Not sure if you've seen where you can do that in some countries. I'm not sure where you're at. I'm not sure if you can do that in some places, but in some of the places out there in Guatemala, you can. And those are the areas I didn't think would be good for us to have family coming in. So I had to be scratching those off the list. So those were some of the requirements I had to start looking at when I was looking at the different property, the different gated communities I was looking at. And I was kind of honest on that. And I actually got some feedback. Hey, you put down where I'm living at. And I was trying to be honest where people know what they're looking at. So those are the things I wanted to look at. And it's things that I think people like myself who are retired looking for the forever home, where they're retired, or even if you're going to be a long-term slow travel or whatever they want to call that, is things that you need to be honest, know what you want to be able to live with. Because I can live into some, excuse the French, some really piss poor locations. I'm used to that. I can go a week plus doing a sponge bath from hell. I don't think that would be good for my wife. I don't think she could live with that. I don't think she could live out of a bucket, no hot water, and a sleeping bag like that. I've done that for years.
Right.
But I don't think she...
meme online, it's like how men would live without women, and it's just like a gun by the pillow. And like that's, like in a garage. I got it. Okay, let me switch gears on you. I do the real estate stuff is extremely interesting.
Yeah,
we can definitely come back to that because I think renovation and buying a place, hugely important topic.
Yep.
But I wanted to just hear a bit of the story about dying to retire, the name, and some of the motivation, some of the emotional stuff. But dude, the name is so good. Like I really like what it's like trying to convey a little bit. You tell me a bit about it.
The way I came up with the name how can I say this? When I started thinking about retiring, I was overseas around 2016, 2017. That's when I started talking to the wife originally about retiring. And I was overseas, we were talking, and that's when we originally say, hey, what about going to Guatemala? And then things started happening. Around 2019, I actually had a cancer. Ended up getting cancer. And this is kind of a just dumbass luck. Here in Maryland, it was December 2019. I was going out doing something stupid. I slipped on the snow. I slipped on the ice, actually. I fell, hurt my shoulder. I thought I tore my shoulder up again because in 1994, I had to have my shoulder rebuilt because I screwed up in the military, like in 86, 85. Screwed up really bad. And I thought I screwed it up again. I'm mad. I thought I really screwed it up again. And so I go to the doctors, get it x-rayed. They said, oh, it's fine. It's just a really bad impingement, right? So where they shoved the 6-inch needle in there to try to, relax the muscles and stuff. But oh, by the way, we found 2 little nodules on your thyroid. We want and also on your lymph node. We want you to come in. We have already done set up an appointment with your endocrinologist. I'm like, what? And so, they scheduled it already. Hey, by the way, you're fine on your shoulder, but we already scheduled an appointment with an endocrinologist with you. And that's 2019. Now I'm going overseas. I have a lot of appointments I have to do because they're doing a release of something. So I'm traveling over there. I get this news and they're doing all that stuff. So between 2019 and 2022, I'm going through 7 different biopsies. I'm doing all these different things. And that's when I started realizing it's time to retire. That's when it's getting in there. And there's other stuff going on at work. And that's when I started going, because a long time ago, I used to work in radio before I went back to the government. And that's when I started thinking, hey, I'd like to do podcasts, going back into it. And that's when it hit me kind of sort of when I started laying out what I want to do for a podcast. Like we're all basically dying to retire. We're all, you want to retire and you want to get there before you die. Because unfortunately, like I did get there in 2022. I did get, remove my thyroid and all the other stuff because, shit happens, I'm okay. It's really good. And remove thyroid, remove my parathyroid, lymph node, all good. It's all great. All that stuff. But unfortunately in 2022, I lost my dad. Then I lost my mom unexpectedly. They had good lives and everything on that. But you begin to realize when your retirement, it's coming. It's coming quicker than you know. So at the end of the day, we are all just dying to retire. So that's where the name started coming into me, and I started playing with it and all the stuff. And I had to get approval from work to be able to start doing a podcast. So that's how I started really originally doing it, like Google Podcasts and stuff. Didn't know Google would flip it over to YouTube. And that's where it started even going more so there. Because I originally started just talking about for federal employees, about all the stuff. But that's how I got to dying to retire. Because again, it was just a no shit moment that at any moment, something could happen to us. I watched my dad retire, then come back out of retirement because he had a business, he had sold it. The person he sold it to kind of screwed it up, so he had to take it back to reset his retirement. So his slow-go years got really condensed, so it took away part of his retirement. And I didn't want that to happen to me. How many people you only have so much time left on this earth. And I forget there's a gentleman who has a YouTube channel who talks about you only have X number of thousands of weeks between the time you retire and the time you die. You want to make the best of it. And it came to a time when I decided to retire. And this is where a lot of people, I listen to your podcast, I listen to a lot of others, and the people who are thinking about retirement, you got to make that make that decision. How much money do you really need? And that's, and that's the choice I ended up making, because I was going to retire 3 to 4 years. I retired 2-3 years earlier than I intended to do, but it's probably the best decision. Well, it's probably one of the better decisions I made. But that's how the name came about. When you health issues, everything started hitting to you. So it's like we're all basically dying to retire.
It's interesting, and I think the military angle is an interesting one. Actually, a very big subset of our clients are military vets, people with military pensions, because they're eligible for a lot of these rentista and pensionado visas in Latin America. Now, I guess in your case, you didn't really need that. You did the marriage visa, so you kind of had it easy. But it's a big yeah, easy entre comillas, quote unquote. But the military thing is huge. And for them it's kind of a no-brainer to retire overseas a lot of the times, because they're getting the military pension, a couple grand there, they're getting maybe social security too, getting a couple grand there, and then like they do pretty well.
Oh yeah, they do. Well, for the Guatemala, they still wanted to see where I was bringing income in. They still wanted to see my OPM annuity, and that's kind of funny as well. Sorry, that's allergies again. I'm not sick. I hate Maryland pollen season. The Guatemalan, when I was going through immigration, it pushed me back like 6 months or 4 months. When they saw my OPM annuity statement, and because it's Latin based, annuity means a year. And then they totally ignored where it said monthly annuity. And they saw the payment for monthly annuity and thought that was the yearly payment, which was below the 1,200 or 1,250 amount. So I had to go back and pull all my bank statements out and get those all. I'm in Maryland. So Maryland, you require a notary. The notary's got to be certified. The certification, the notary's got to be certified. Then you have to go to the Secretary of the State to get that apostilled. Then I had to go back to immigration to file that to submit the package. But by then my FBI background had expired. So I had to get that all redone for my packet. So I had to make 2 trips, but it was just fun. It was funny, though I did it through the marriage side. I had to still submit the stuff showing I was bringing the minimum amount of money, even though I was using the marriage. Yeah.
Not every country is like that, but kind of makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
A bit of it.
Yeah. And I still, I think every 5 years, I still have to show I'm still married.
So a couple of your top videos, I'll read out some of the titles, some of your YouTube videos top titles. So 1 year retired, was quiet quitting worth it? Why workers over 55 should embrace quiet quitting. Say that. The dangerous crusade against older Americans. Interesting. My Guatemala retirement journey begins. Boomers trusted Gen X home. Okay, anyway. So Guatemala residency nightmare. That's another one. Okay. But here, sorry, I'll let you jump in.
Okay, the quiet quitting thing. Oh yeah, I took flack on some of that. Okay. Are you familiar with the term quiet quitting?
I am, yeah.
Okay. For those, quiet quitting is not blue falconing your work buddies. You've heard the term blue falconing?
That one I've not.
Okay. Blue falconing, the acronym is BF, which is buddy effer. It's a military term, blue falcon. So quiet quitting it's also known, a lot of people call it work your wage, not throw the extra stuff in there. And what I'm saying is, when you're getting up there, especially that last year of your work before you retire, it's stop doing that 110, 150% of your work that you're doing. It's work up to here. So I'm so used to doing the 110, 150%, getting all that done. But that last year, you're trying to work, just go to work, do your stuff that you're supposed to do, but don't give all that extra, because when you retire, you want to still have gas in the gas tank for your retirement. Because a lot of people are so tied with the identity of what their job is. When they retire, they don't know, especially for men, you don't really know who you are. You're so tied to your identity. So we get so wrapped up who we are at work. When we retire, we don't know who we are. And when you go home, they just sit and vegetate. And that's why so many men, after they retire, actually fall over dead within 3 to 5 years. Unfortunately, I've seen a lot of it in my family here. So that's what quiet quitting was. If you're over 50, if you're getting ready to retire, in that last 1 to 2 years out, to start looking at that strategy to slow down, start wrapping it up. Because, and I'm going to take heat for this, and a lot of people this is where I took the heat in there. I worked for the federal government. I was at the height of DEI in the federal government. And I know that's a lot of controversy in there. We knew a lot of it. And DEI, good, bad, a lot of people hate it. And I don't care, gay, straight, white, black, polka dot, green, didn't matter. A lot of people were negatively affected by it. A lot of people I know, great people working for the federal government, left the federal government because they said, I can't work here. I got to work somewhere else. And when you know you're not going to be promoted, you know you're not going to get a pay raise, you're not going to get the assignments you want, doing the extra 100, 110, 115% is not going to get you the next job. It was a perfect time to start slowly winding down for your retirement, because it got me to where I had to do the math. Because, I had the cancer scare, I had all that, had my parents pass. And when I pulled back, I looked at my pension, I looked at everything, and I said, hey, I can make almost the same amount of money not going into work every day. What was the point to going to work? I can redirect, I can retire, and I can start working on, our house in Guatemala. I could start that a little bit earlier. So that's what quiet quitting was at. And again, I'm not saying you start blue falconing your coworkers, you do crappy work. I'm never saying that. I'm saying when you're working for a large company or like the government, that's what quiet quitting. Now, if you own your own company or working in a family company, it's a different strategy, because that's your family name and something on there. I wouldn't say be doing that. Be a different thing. But if you're working for a large company, you're a number, not to be mean. You're a number, you're easily replaced, because I've been that same person who I've had to replace you in a heartbeat. So I'm not trying to be mean to anybody, but I will play the guilt trip to you. Oh, when you leave, it's so terrible. It's bad because I've been the senior manager, but I'll replace you in a heartbeat. It's been there.
The game is the game.
The game is the game. So, and that's why I say I also have a strategy called You Inc. because you're a company, Vance. You're prior. I don't care if you're working for somebody else. You're still your company. Yep. And always. I'm not sure if you're married or anything, but that's another asset in your company. Your house is an asset in your company. You have to do what's best for your company. So, and that's quiet quitting was what was best for me. And often quiet quitting is what's best for a lot of people in that same predicament that I was in.
Sort of mentally check out, but keep getting a paycheck, or just doing like doing just enough to not get fired.
Well, I'm not saying completely mentally check out. I'm saying not going above and beyond the extras, because you're not going to get promoted. You're not going to get a pay raise. You're not going to get the next assignment. And I hate to say it's almost millennials and Gen Z without the laziness and the attitude are kind of a little bit smart on this, because they say work their wage. If you're not going to be getting extras from it, just do the job that you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, I think for young people, definitely not good advice.
Yeah.
But I think
a 50, 60-year-old, it's a different.
Yeah. No,
it's generational. Sense. It's generational.
That makes sense. And so do you speak to military retirees specifically? Do you tell them about, hey, you're already getting a pension, here's how to retire on that, blah, blah, blah?
Yeah, I talked, strangely enough, I have a friend of mine who I've met through the podcast, I've talked to a few on there, what to look at. What was really good before I actually retired, the federal government agency I worked for, they put us through a lot of retirement planning. They do a lot of classes to make sure we know what we're getting into. And a lot of federal employees just, I hate to use gaff it off, but they look at it and say, no, I'm smart. I'm not going to do this. I don't need to think about this. And they don't think about their TSPs. They don't think about what comes up for Social Security when it comes time for that. They don't seek out financial planners. They don't do any of that and go, oh, no, I'm good. And it's like, WTF, dude. I don't care how smart you are. Sit through the classes, because there's always going to be a nugget in there for you. And we all have this little bit of hubris, and we got to keep that in check a little bit, because I don't care how smart you are. You can be another Elon Musk, but there's stuff in there you're going to learn. So yes, a short answer, yes. I talked to a few people on there and say, hey, look at this, look at that. I have friends of mine who are still working. They reach out to me because they can't wait for my house to get finished, because they're already planning to come down. They're looking about investing even in the same area where I'm at.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So, dude, it's so funny that people can't see you on video. It's an audio only podcast, but you do have a Twitter presence as well. But you look way more like your photo with the cigar and the like, that certain style of hat. It's very different. I like cigars too, but you look very different than I was kind of expecting almost, or I don't know. You kind of, it's like a biker versus accountant a little bit.
Well, yeah. Which one am I looking more like, the accountant?
Like right now, you're more like the accountant, and then like the Twitter profile picture is like Hell's Angels or something.
Oh, yeah. Well, and other days I have family members go, "Oh my God, you look like a cop," which I was a military policeman. So yes, I would give you a ticket on Easter. Yeah. So it depends on, I hate to say it, how you approach. But I mean, believe it or not, I've kind of been all of them.
That's cool.
Yeah, I haven't been the Hell's Angels. Not technically, not been a Hell's Angels. No, but I have an MBA. Most of those classes are all financial and accounting and cost management. So yeah, I've done that. So I've been there. I've been the law enforcement. So I got that look. Used to have super long hair, but not anymore. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. After this, you're gonna start getting some follows from the My Latin Life people because I
Hopefully.
see we don't have too much overlap in followers, but that's gonna change.
Yeah.
You just gotta start commenting on some of the other guys' stuff. But okay, so
Okay.
let's get actionable for
Okay.
older retirees.
Mhm.
What they actually need to know that most expat content skips, things that you've learned the hard way, epiphanies, things that you would tell a buddy. You got buddies from Maryland, whatever, that want to
Yeah.
retire. What are you going to lay down?
What would I tell them? Okay. Oh God, I have a litany of things I would say. Do the research. I'd get back to do your research. And I'm going to, like your program, a lot of people focus on and I'm going to call this the sexy. And I'm going to pull out from my old job and stuff like that. Too many people focus on the sexy. And what I mean is the flashy things and everything. They look at the fancy photos and all the flashiness because it's, someone zip lining or the cool hotels or the fancy foods or the cool hotels everyone stays at. But if you really are looking about living abroad anywhere, now my focus is Guatemala, but living anywhere, start doing the research because like your program and there's a few others, and you got to start looking at them because you're living in a place isn't always sexy because the stuff finding out about like your shows that cover about the residency process, you need to start looking in there. And there's two sides of the residency process. The stuff that you have to do in the country that you're looking in and the stuff that you can do yourself. Because I did a lot of stuff on myself, not on myself. That sounds really weird. Let's do the stuff for myself, like getting the apostilles, pulling all the documents. And I'm smart enough to get my own birth certificate and marriage certificate. I don't know who couldn't do that. Sorry, local politics stuff, right? So, the things that a lot of people pay other people to do, you can personally do yourself and save yourself hundreds of dollars, or some of these people charge outrageous prices. That's what I tell my friends. If you have a computer, you can do half this stuff yourself. Now, the stuff that's required in the country, like I had a Guatemalan attorney, I had to rely on that. And then like on your program and a few others, when you do get the Guatemalan attorney, ask them they're going to have a fee. What does that fee cover? You're going to have to ask those questions. It's not sexy to ask these questions, but okay, what's your fee cover? Does it cover the filing fee? Does it cover the Spanish translation? Because all my documents for Guatemala had to be translated into Spanish and required the translation had to be done by a certified Spanish translator by Guatemala, certified by the Guatemalan government. A lot of the lawyers they will bill you for that separately on top of their $2,000 charge. You have to get all of this done up front. But if you don't ask these questions, you can be hit with all these surprise charges at the end. And that's, like I said, someone called me the other day, was asking about it, and we're trying to avoid all these charges. But if you don't ask these questions, again, it doesn't sound sexy because it's not that cool video of someone zip lining down, Volcan Fuego or doing all the other stuff or looking at Hobbitville. It doesn't look as sexy, but you got to start looking at that stuff. Those are what the thing is. That's the hardcore research that folks are doing. I'll send you something later because I'm trying to gin up an episode on something.
I know what you mean. Like for us, like as we do these immigration services in every country in Latin America, including Guatemala, and it's a common question where we always try to have the packages include the translations. We try to have it be all in so that the client doesn't have to pay essentially like anything out of pocket. But there's a lot to do that. There's a lot to plan for. For example, translating from English is pretty easy, but what if the spouse is Russian or Chinese, and then we have to get like a Chinese to Guatemalan translation, and it's way more expensive. And it's like, okay, do we have to, so they're
they have to factor it in. They have to be willing to factor that in. So, I understand completely because if you go in blindly, you're going to have a lot of hidden cost, and they have to be aware of it. So they got to be willing to ask you that question without, well, we should have known. And I'm not trying to say they need to badger you, but they need to be able to ask you that question. And that's another thing is questions like, that's why I like when people ask me questions. I know you like it when people ask you questions because, not to be mean, any person on YouTube or anything else, we're a little bit narcissistic. I hate to say it like that. We love it when people ask us questions because not all questions, but we like it when people ask us questions because then we can answer them. Because I like doing research. I've done research on pretty much everything known to man. I like to be able to find out what the answer is, and I like to be able to find, if I don't know, I still like to be able to know it, find out what it is. Those are the things I think a lot of people, older people, my generation need to know, but they need to be pointed in the right direction. We get stuck in this endless loop watching the doom scrolling on the internet, just seeing things over and over and over, but not accomplishing anything. So we get stuck just wanting to go in retirement, wanting to go to Guatemala or Salvador, or wanting to all these things, not able to actually pull the trigger on it to do anything because we're stuck in the doom scrolling part. I want to be able to get them out of the doom scrolling where they can start doing action. And that's where it's kind of where I want to get people where they're going. And then that's what your service offers and others as well.
Definitely makes sense.
Yeah.
Let's switch gears to just like the experience of being in Latin America. What are some of your observations about how life is different and what's better, what you like? I mean, there's a lot of ground to cover here. There's things you don't like too, because there's definitely a lot of stuff that can drive you crazy. But let's start with the good stuff. What do you like this better?
Oh Lord. I've been with my wife for 30 years. Okay. Cause that's a lot of ground cover. For in Latin America or being with Latin Americans? Cause
oh man, that's another one. Sure. Okay. However you want to take
it. One thing, okay, I'm going to stick with Guatemala because I have been in Panama and Salvador and a couple other countries. Okay. Because I'm going to tell you, when I was in high school, my favorite subject actually was, and that's another thing why I actually like Central and Latin America, because the conquistadors in the New World, that was actually my favorite subject in high school. It just somehow ended up marrying for my second marriage was to a Guatemalan woman. And she's almost 100% Mayan. My father-in-law is 100% Mayan. So I have more Spanish blood in me than my wife actually has. So that's the funnest part because I have Iberian Peninsula and she has none whatsoever.
You did an ancestry test or what?
Yeah, correct. Yes, I did mine, and we did
ancestry company, or which one did you do?
Before my dad passed, I did one. I did one on me on 23andMe, and then I forget what the other one is. He did that one, and then
Ancestry DNA.
Ancestry, yeah, and we gave each other one for the other as a Christmas gift or a birthday gift, and then we did the other. So we're on both, and yeah, he was my dad. We confirmed he was my dad, and I was his son. But we also did one for my mother-in-law and my father-in-law, and my father-in-law is 100% Mayan. And it was just insane. My mother-in-law is like 80% Mayan, somehow Greek, which trying to figure that one out. I don't know where that showed up, and some Scandinavian. So it was just kind of funny. So my wife is that mixture. No Italian, no Spanish, nada. So that was the funny part. But what I really like, which is funny, for the Guatemalan, now there's always good and bad no matter where you go, because I've been some of the worst parts in the world. So Guatemala has some of the nicest people. You go anywhere, it's con permiso, you're going in. Even driving, they'll do the nice beep, beep, beep when you're trying to cut through the intersections. Now, you got to be a very aggressive driving in Guatemala City, or you'll never go anywhere. Because I'm not sure if you've driven in Guatemala City, but if you need to be able to move around, there's a lot of traffic. It's a lot. The moto simians are crazy, but to go around in there. So I really like they're still pleasant. Even if you don't, even in in the big cities, they're still pleasant. People still say, excuse me, good afternoon, going around you and stuff like that, like you would find in small town America. Here in the DC, be you in New York, Los Angeles, Philly, Pittsburgh, get out of my way, move, and like that. but they're still more respectful and quiet in there. Yes, you have drunks and stuff like that. Also, okay, and women, if you're listening, close your ears because you're going to get mad at me, but I'm an old dude, so what the hell, right? So, you'll see dynamics, the men and female dynamic relationships. I don't see as many in public, the women yelling at the men, like the husband and wife relationships. I don't stay out late, so I probably don't see anything like that too late. But in the malls and stuff, I don't see those screaming around. But if in the DC area, you'll see a lot of that, unfortunately. So, not sure how it is where you guys are at, but it's a little bit more respectful for the couples when they're out in public. So I see that down there a lot. But I just like how manners a little bit more down in Guatemala. The people are a lot nicer to each other. I know there's elements that aren't, because I know there's MS-13 and a whole lot of stuff on there. So I do like that part in Guatemala, but at the same time, I do know there's some bad elements down there too, as well as anywhere.
We'll get there. Before we do,
Yeah.
I think this is a very underrated benefit because it's kind of hard to capture that people are
Yeah.
nicer. There's more manners, but it manifests itself in different ways. But I think most, like, my favorite one's in the elevator. How, like, if you get into an elevator, like, you have to say, like, buenos dias, buenas tardes,
Yep.
hasta luego. Like, you say, like, hello and goodbye to every person that walks in the elevator, which I think is pretty cool.
Have you? I mean, one of the craziest things when I first started dating my wife, and it's in the United States, but it's also in Guatemala. When you go to a family event, be it a religious holiday or like Christmas or any event, when you go to that house, in order of if the person hosting the house and everything, you have to say hello to everybody, right? You have to say, the host, you have to say, thank you for coming, the whole 9 yards. When you leave that house, you have to say goodbye to everybody. There is no 5-minute goodbye. I'm not sure if have done that. It's a 30-minute to an hour goodbye. You can't sneak out that door. You want to, but there is no sneaking out that door. Sometimes you'll try, but you'll get caught on it. You get called on it. Sorry. So, I mean, but it is. But what's interesting too, because I'm one of the gray-haired people now, or white-haired people now, because we do a lot of events at our house, and I know I'll have a lot of events at the house down there, is everyone will have to, even the small kids, they make sure they come up to, Tio Douglas, I thank you for, they'll make sure they say, hello, goodbye, thank you for hosting us and everything. They'll bring the little kids and make sure they do that. You don't see that here in the United States, in the outside of the Latino community as much. And that's one thing I really like, what I see, like in Guatemala, in the Guatemalan community. I see it, and I see it in the Salvadorian as well. So it is in the Mexican. It's the family's all mixed. I'll put it there. So, but you don't see that here so much in the culture in the United States anymore.
And you think it's something that we used to have that we've kind of lost, or you think it's something that's unique to?
I will be open. We lost. I think because I come from small town America, we lost it. I think over time, we lost it. I mean, the communities that we used to have, the old Polish communities, the old Irish communities, and everything like that, I think we've lost it a little bit. The good parts on there. We also became so busy trying to take care of things. I love the mañana time. My wife hates it. I love the mañana time. Because I can live on. That's one thing. I'm ready for the retirement part. I can deal with the mañana time. She's still on that. We got to go. And I'm like, I'm okay. And I know that drives her up the wall.
So, what advice would you have to guys specifically, or couples specifically, in this situation where maybe the couple, the significant other, they're from the Philippines, they're from Mexico, they're from Guatemala, somewhere like cheap and tropical and potentially a good place to retire, versus staying in the U.S. What are your thoughts on, or advice to someone kind of thinking with that avatar?
Well, I would say look at the reverse green card strategy, and I call it that. If you're, think about it. I joke with my wife anyway. I call it the reverse green card strategy. It's a joke, but it is there. And I joke with my account. My accountant's actually from El Salvador. And I joke with her because it is a reverse green card strategy. And I do have my scheduler. So I technically do have my reverse green card. So you do have a lot of us who are in that scenario. Look at it because it is a potentiality. Look at the Philippines. There is a dynamics you need to look in there. That was my first marriage, by the way. You do need to look at that. Strange how you hit that one. I'm like, how the hell you hit that one? Okay. You see, you got to check what are your rights? What do you have in there? Because there are property rights and stuff on that. I know in the Philippines, because if I wasn't married, Cebu would be my plan C. But you need to look at it because I have friends over there. So those would be things to look at. I would highly recommend looking at it. What are your rights and stuff like that? How easy it is to get. What are the minimum requirements on there? For me, I'm an avid shooter. I don't shoot as much as I want to, but I'm an avid shooter. Because I have my schedule, I can buy a firearm in Guatemala and stuff like that. I can go shoot. My lawyer's already trying to get me to go shooting when I get down there. For anybody in those scenarios like me that has a foreign-born wife, one, make sure does that country still recognize their citizenship? Because my wife came here when she was 6-7 years old. She still had her original passport. I made her go down to the consulate and update her stuff. She came back mad at me because they told her her passport was ancient, and I had to hear about that one. Because they just called her ancient, but it still was legit. So she got she had never had a DPI in her life. So she's got all that set up, but I had to make sure she got all that stuff. So if you had a spouse who came to the United States when they were young, but they were foreign born, make sure they get all their paperwork done because they may not have it. So you're going to need to make sure they get all that stuff done before you start yours, or you can do it concurrently. See if you can do it concurrently. That is part of that research that I'd recommend you doing on there. So I was able to get all her stuff going while doing mine at the same time. So luckily for me, I'm in the DC area. So the consulate's right down here in Rockville, Maryland. So and it used to be in Silver Spring. It's in Rockville. It's a whole lot better than it used to be. But if you send them messages, if you send them emails, send it all in Spanish. They don't respond in English. That's one thing I learned. They do not respond in English. And AI is really good at translating it to Spanish. So I would highly recommend people do the research in there, see what their spouse is still able to get in their home countries and do the research, and then start researching from there.
Like generally for Latin America, if your spouse is foreign born from any country in Latin America,
Yep.
you can get a marriage visa.
Yep.
And, it's never really gonna expire. Like generally speaking, there's no physical presence requirements with the marriage visa. So you can keep living in the US, keep living in Canada
Yep.
or wherever you are. And it can be kind of like a plan B. Or people are doing exactly what you're doing, Douglas, which is they're saying, hey, I'm gonna get the residency visa now. Well, it's easy. Well, they're issue it or whatever. And then if we want to retire there in 5-10 years, like we have it as an option.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I was worried for a hot second because I know the current administration I don't know exactly what he put on Guatemala, how he was holding on some of the visas from Guatemala coming to some of the travel visas. And I was worried that Guatemala was going to do a tick for tack thing, but they didn't because I had mine already approved back, I think in January. Yeah, took me to March till I went back in there, but it was a tick for tack on there. And that's a whole new story. When I was sitting through immigration for it, I felt like I was going back to a teacher who was editing my test scores. Yeah, I'm not sure if you sat through that whole thing before, but it's like nerve wracking when they go through it because they're going through all your paperwork to make sure it was all correct. But yeah, I was worried they may do a tick for tack thing on there, and you do have to be mindful of it because countries do retaliate If one country does one thing, the other country may retaliate against it. We just have to be mindful there is political things going on. Luckily, Guatemala did not. I don't know if it was because of the marriage situation, but I was fortunate they did not do any retaliation about holding up the visas on there. Also, it could be because my investment, because they did see where I was buying a house. So.
Cool. And okay, back to the house as we get to wrapping up. I mean, how's that going so far? I mean, it's we generally tell people don't buy a house right away, rent for a bit, get a feel for the neighborhoods, negotiate whatever.
True.
But you went all in.
Yeah, I went all in because we spend time going back and forth there already. Because, like I said, we were going to fix up the house in the city. Because, like I said, the house belongs to her dad. Her mom, unfortunately, passed last year. And I was hoping to fix up the house down there. I had money saved. I've been saving it for several years. And let me put it like this. The whole time together, my wife and I have been together. We have purposely lived as if we were on one person's salary. So we've put everything away. And it's not like FIRE. We did not intentionally live like FIRE, financially independent, retire early. But we both grew up kind of poor. So we tried to save money as best as possible. So it just happened that way. So I've had a lot of money saved for, not a lot of money, but I had money. It's all relative, right? So I had money saved to fix up the house, but family dynamics. And that's another reason why I wanted my wife to get all her paperwork correctly, because she's the only one in her family that's here in the United States that has all her paperwork to, if her dad passed, and he's 89, right? So if her dad passed, she can lay the legal claim for the house down there. But I just did not want to get into that hassle. And I personally would like to have my footprint there as well. And like I said, I've lived abroad before. So that's why I was like, I could deal with living there in Guatemala. I'm fine. It's a safe, nice, gated community. I've done the lived abroad before in other locations. So that's why I'm like, I'll be fine there. And how many guys get to be able to live there before their spouse shows up for probably a year? It's kind of I get to pick the furniture, dude. I mean, I'll send her photos.
You get a humidor yet?
Humidor? Yeah, I'll have that. Well, I moved to the e-cigars because I can smoke in the house now without her. And
what the hell is that?
Believe it or not, there's a company here and there's a company out of Canada that doesn't ship to the U.S. anymore because all our rules.
Oh, what's an e-cigar? It's an electric cigar?
Yeah, it's an electric cigar.
Come on, they have that?
Yes, they have that.
Bro.
And it smells just...
Dude, Guatemala is some of the best cigars in the world.
Well, Salvador has some. Nicaragua, there's some. I still smoke real cigars down there. But yeah, well, they have the gated community that I'm at. They have the really nice pool area, and up in the business center, they have a cigar area. So, and a friend of mine, he's a couple gated communities down the road. It's within walking distance, so we're just gonna split time. Now I'm gonna make you laugh. I'm gonna tell you a story that's gonna make you laugh, right?
Okay.
Because I know we have a little time here. Here's what's funny. What people don't realize. My wife grew up until she was like 6, 7 years old before she moved to the United States, and we're thinking Guatemala is a developing country, correct? That's the third world. Okay, she has always lived in Guatemala City. Yes, it's an older house, and they rebuilt it back in the 1980s. Now, that doesn't have hot water, but it's always had running water, indoor plumbing and stuff. When we moved because I was born in the Texas area, we moved up to New England, right? Because my dad was from the New England area. So when we moved up there to upper Northeast Kingdom, we were still building a house. So we were basically living in a camper inside of a garage with no running water and everything. And before my dad died, he knew about me, building the house, going to eventually build a house in Guatemala. And he's picking on me like, you think you could live in Guatemala? He knew where I worked and knew where, my military
This
stuff.
is your New England father.
Yeah, my New England father grew up in
Guatemala.
Right. But I grew up part of my life, like 5 years, we're in a house. Well, we were in a garage that had a toilet. We took our baths in a large metal thing that you feed horses in. We had a potbelly stove. We warmed up water, poured that into the thing. That's what we took our baths in. We had a pump to pump water. We didn't really have indoor pump. So my wife had more conveniences for her life in Guatemala than I did in the house I was growing up in. So I'm like, we're thinking, oh, you're in the United States, so you had everything. She's in Guatemala, the developing country. So I'm like, come on. People don't realize,
Well, that's one thing. I mean, I think obviously build quality in the U.S. is overall a little bit better, but there are some conveniences, especially these days, that make the LATAM lifestyle better for retirees, such as having a maid, having a chef and nanny, having elder care.
Yes.
Like, because no one in the U.S. really has like a full-time maid. Maybe you get someone once every 2 weeks or something, and you pay way too much for it. But like in Guatemala, it'll be $20 a day for full-time or whatever. It's crazy.
Well, the elder care is really important because, like, for my father-in-law, and he's going to be up here. It's past the years for us to send him down to Guatemala. So he'll be up here, but he may come down to visit. But for me, you're correct. For the wife and I, sorry. For us, for the elder care, it is more affordable for us when I get up there. I'm going to move from the upstairs room to the downstairs room. I won't have to worry about stairs. It's still going to be a big size room with a queen size bed, but I don't have to mess with the staircase. You're right. I can have a full-time elder care assistant, what do you call it? Health assistant, all that word. I don't have to worry about it. I could have a cook if I needed there. I could have it in there. I still have to laugh. My wife I don't know what it is about women. No, you can't have a maid. You can't have a maid. I'm like, no, I'm going to have someone, at least the bathrooms and the kitchens. Come on. But like I said, I'm going to be there a year and a half before she retires. So what she doesn't know won't hurt her, right?
Having a maid is key, dude. It's very cheap. Why would you not get it?
I don't know.
It's like $400 a month.
I know, but it's a thing with her. I don't know what it is.
You might not even need it. I don't know. But anyway, no, but there are these things, right? Like obviously healthcare is a big one. Guatemala City probably has some excellent private hospitals. Going to the dentist is going to be a fraction of the price compared to the U.S. And so, how are you thinking about that?
Yeah, and that's the other thing that I'll have eventually going up on the podcast too as I start going through them, because those are the other things I'm looking at the healthcare, because I've already factored that in. And that's once I start doing it, I'll start documenting it more, what I looked at, what are the exact costs for me. But even believe it or not, in and around Antigua, they have the private clinics as well there. A lot of expats are down in there and they go to the private clinic, because I've seen the public stuff they go to, and that's not something I'll be going. Because I'm a federal employee, I still have my federal health stuff in there, and I still can submit stuff to cover the balance after that. So yes, there is health insurance down there, private one I can get. Some of it's you can do it through, if I had a bank account. If I have a bank account with Banco Industrial, they also sell health insurance through there, so I can do stuff in there. Which I'm looking at there. They have the the emergency medical. They come to your house if something happens in your home. A lot of places have that, and that's $25 a month. Someone will come to your house. The other thing I'm looking at, we do have pets. Looking, for how much it would cost to have pets down there, because a lot of us love our pets. Those are things that people might, because we're senior citizens. Well, I am a senior citizen now, aren't I? Yeah, senior citizens, we have our pets, we have our animals, because sometimes they're better than our kids. And we love them more than our kids sometimes. So, my son doesn't listen, so I'm good. So those are things that we need to think about. But you're right, the insurance and stuff, that's the health insurance, but it's also think about car insurance. But the health insurance, there's a lot of medical down in there. There's I'm 15 minutes away from Antigua for the house, but I'm like hour and a half away from Guatemala City, which I'm fine with. If I needed something, I could just go down there for a day trip, get stuff done, then just go back home. It's perfect. Or if I really need something, if I'm back here, it's a 4-hour flight. I just hop on, I'll go down here to Dulles. 4 hours later, I'm in Guatemala.
Proximity is huge.
Yep.
Sure.
It's huge.
Man, good rum, good coffee, good cigars, living the life.
A good rum. Yeah, really good rum. My wife likes her tequila, but so I have to get some of that.
Tequila's good too. Good too. Cool, man. So we'll get to wrapping up the podcast. Yep. Where can people find you? You know, final message for the audience, anything that you'd like to share.
You primarily can find me on the YouTube. That's the Dying to Retire podcast on YouTube. That's where I put most of the stuff on there. I had some stuff on Spotify, but I'm about to clean that up because a lot of my stuff has a lot of visual on it, and it's hard on Spotify to have the visual on there because I had the pictures of the house being built in an Antigua area. So I'd highly recommend everyone look at the YouTube channel there. I'll start putting more stuff back up on Spotify. It has the same name. I just have to put more in there where it will be more audio friendly. So I need to move stuff over in there. But YouTube's the primary stuff to see everything.
Great. So there'll be a link in the description to the YouTube. Okay. So I highly recommend the audience go check that out. And Thank Douglas, I really hope you keep with it because I think this information is becoming it's a big trend. Like it's a growing trend. You're right on trend. This is going to be a big thing for the next 20 plus years. Retirees going abroad to, you know, for the better life and everything. So I think you're really onto something here. And I know it's hard in the beginning when, you know, you still need to crack your 1,000 subs on YouTube, but you're almost there.
Hopefully. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. I hope that doesn't sound patronizing. I'm still at a lowly 15,000 subs on YouTube, but it's, you know, it's like the beginning is the hardest part, you know?
Yeah. One day at a time.
Thank you so much. And I'm happy to jump on your podcast sometime in the future as well.
Will do. I appreciate it.
Cool. We'll wrap it up there. So this has been another episode of the My Latin Life podcast. Again, our guest today, Douglas Haslam, the Dying to Retire podcast. So go check that out wherever you listen to podcasts. I imagine it's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. As well as the My Latin Life podcast. Please be sure to subscribe to the channel. Leave a review. Really helps us grow the show. If you want to book a consulting call with us directly, there's a link in the description to do that as well. We can help you get Guatemala residency, citizenship, and much more. We'll see you in the next episode.